What is the sublime object of ideology? In 1989, Slavoj Žižek introduces the concept of the sublime object of ideology. It is his initial pitch to his career and considered to be an intellectual milestone in contemporary philosophy. In his book he writes, "The sublime object is an object which cannot be approached too closely. If we get too near it, it loses its sublime features and becomes an ordinary, vulgar object. It can persist only in an interspace, in an intermediate state, viewed from a certain perspective, half seen. If we want to see it in the light of day, it changes into an everyday object. It dissipates itself, precisely because, in itself, it is nothing at all." But what does this mean? Are we talking about a material object, or are we talking about an idea? To understand this, we need to know that Žižek rejects the Cartesian notion of cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am. To put it plain and simple, Žižek believes that to become a self-conscious subject means to formulate a void that needs to be filled. We can be only subject to or subject of something, but not subject by itself. So to be a functioning subject, we need to be in relation towards another object. It is basically our only way of perceiving us. We cannot perceive ourselves beyond a subject-object relationship. However, this object we relate to is no ordinary thing. This would be too simple. Our object we relate to is sublime. It is the agalma, the essence, from where the idea of something true transcends. It is the source of ideology, created, desired, and projected by us. In the game Dark Souls, we are confronted with the task to rekindle the flame. To rekindle the flame means to bring light to darkness, enter a new era, overcome trauma and the perverted reality we find ourselves in. The idea to rekindle the flame is here our sublime object of ideology. It is the crucial operation in how we relate to and act in the world of Dark Souls. It is the void-filling idea that helps us to identify as a subject in the world with no other meaning. Once we accept ideology of rekindling the flame as our sublime object, our relational coordinate as a subject, we have a clear objective. We have a clear code of conduct. We see the world through the framework of this sublime idea. We realize potentialities, we recognize opportunities, and know our friends and foes through this very relational coordinate. Yet, once we have rekindled the flame, we find ourselves unliberated. Nothing has basically changed. No fulfillment has actually taken place. We may have climbed in the hierarchy, but the world has not transformed. The world remains the same, but the idea of rekindling the flame has turned out to be only a fantasy. There is no catharsis, no ataraxia, no end for our desire to fill the void we have created once we have subjected ourselves to it. All we can do is to either accept the pure meaninglessness of existence, the fact that there is no sublime truth, that there is no greater God awaiting the fulfillment of our sacred quest, or we can resubject ourselves to a new idea, a new God, a new object of ideology. According to Žižek, the former is of course the only reasonable target. It is what he calls subjective destitution. The subject no longer presupposes himself as by accomplishing this he annuls, so to speak, the effects of the act of formal conversion. In other words, he assumes not the existence but the non-existence of the big other. He accepts the real in its utter, meaningless idiocy. He keeps open the gap between the real and its symbolization. The price to be paid for this is that by the same act he also annuls himself as subject. So, the sublime object of ideology is first and foremost a relational coordinate for making meaning of ourselves and our environment. It is also the drive to address our human condition of anxiety, stagnation, and depression, once our basic conditions are fulfilled, of course. Yet, beyond that all,
it's pure ideology.